Our planet is gradually drowning in violence and cruelty. According to statistics, more than 400,000 people fall victim to intentional homicides every year. In some cities, crime has become so commonplace that the police do not even respond to what is happening. In this video, I will talk about the most dangerous urban areas with a terrifying level of crime. Enjoy watching. St. Louis ranks among the most dangerous cities in the USA. In terms of crimes per 100,000 population, it is surpassed only by Flint and Detroit, located in Michigan. One of the most criminal areas in St. Louis is Peabody-Darst-Veba. It is located not on the outskirts, but near the very center of the city. The level of violence in this territory is 1,100% higher than the national average. Just like in other criminal areas, gangs involved in the illegal trade of prohibited substances operate in Peabody. Clashes between them often lead to the deaths not only of the criminals themselves, but also of ordinary people. In August 2021, a young man who happened to witness an armed attack on another individual was killed on one of the district's streets. And in the spring of 2022, a 14-year-old schoolboy was killed by members of a gang on a sports field. According to official data, the crime rate in St. Louis has increased by 40% over the last 3 years. And, unfortunately, since the mid-1990s, this indicator has never decreased. Mexico is known as one of the most criminal countries in the world, with rampant violence and drug trafficking. But even for residents accustomed to constant shootouts, there is their own hell, Tijuana. Tijuana is a large city in the northwest of Mexico, with a population of almost 2 million people. It is a very beautiful city, with wild beaches and delightful architectural buildings. It could have been one of the most popular tourist destinations, if not for the crime that flourishes almost in every corner of this city. According to official data, last year there were 105 murders per 100,000 population in Tijuana. According to local residents, sometimes 6 people are killed in the city in a single day. Now you understand why Tijuana is recognized as the most violent city in the world. Murders occur throughout the city, but there are several incredibly dangerous districts in Tijuana: Camino Verde, Zona Norte, and Sanchez Taboada. These territories are completely seized by criminal gangs. Drug and human trafficking, as well as contract killings, are the main business in these areas. With so many criminals among them, there is immense competition, which leads to particular brutality. Gang members often settle scores among themselves and engage in shootouts. But shootings are not the worst part. These people have lost all humanity. They often commit incredibly brutal murders, tormenting their victim beforehand. The authorities and police in Tijuana cannot cope with crime, or perhaps they simply do not want to, so this city is already doomed. Detroit is known for its complicated history. In the first half of the 20th century, it became a major automotive hub, earning the nickname Motor City. The city was rapidly built and developed with a population of nearly 2 million people. But the 1973 oil crisis led to its decline. Factories closed and people left Detroit, leaving entire city districts abandoned. Thus, Detroit transformed from a successful metropolis into one of the most crime-ridden cities in the USA. In 2013, the local authorities even declared bankruptcy. As such, Detroit has come to be associated with poverty and crime. Despite the many abandoned buildings, there are still people in the city who hope that the situation will change. Its current population is over 600,000. However, it is extremely unsafe to be there. The most dangerous area of the city is considered to be Fiskhorn. The crime rate there is off the charts. According to FBI data, every 8th resident of the area becomes a victim of crime. Robberies, murders, and rapes occur regularly in Fiskhorn. This area falls under the jurisdiction of the Detroit Police Department's 2nd Precinct. Unfortunately, the police are unable to withstand the vast number of criminals and hooligans. And this is sad because Detroit was once a thriving metropolis, and its residents were happy. Johannesburg is the largest city in South Africa, with a population of over 8 million people. One might think that in the rhythm of a metropolis, people are constantly occupied with education, work, and family, leaving no time for crime, but Johannesburg is different. In this city lies one of the most dangerous districts in the world, Hillbrow. It is known for its overpopulation, unemployment, poverty, and crime. In the 1980s, the population in this area rapidly increased. The authorities could not cope with this and failed to provide people with jobs. As a result, the middle class left the district, and by the early 1990s, Hillbrow had turned into slums. Currently, more than 70,000 people live in this area, which spans just over 1 square kilometer. Just imagine the horror these people must live in. Almost all local residents live below the poverty line. Driven to desperation and unemployment, people have sunk into crime. The South African government is trying to help the residents of the area, but until they provide people with proper jobs, these horrors will not cease. Some of you might be surprised to see Rio de Janeiro in this ranking, as this city is known for its bright carnivals, magnificent fireworks, and the smiles of local residents. However, there is indeed a very dangerous district in the north of the capital. Complexo de Alemão is a territory of slums inhabited by the poor and criminals. This area is literally owned by bandits. They trade drugs with impunity, create disturbances, and kill other people. According to local residents, shootouts between gang members happen there daily. The civilian population has become accustomed to such conditions, but still, each of these people tries not to go out on the streets unnecessarily and certainly not to visit bars. Over the last 20 years, 3 major incidents with a large number of victims have occurred in this district. In June 2007, 19 people died during a special operation to neutralize a gang leader. In May 2021, 28 people died during a police raid. And in July 2022, 19 people were killed during a similar operation. As you can see, the police are trying to clear the area of criminal groups. More than 100 police officers participate in such operations, but unfortunately, even such actions do not help eradicate crime in Alemão. San Pedro Sula is the second largest city in Honduras. Its name translates as St. Peter's Valley. However, what happens on the streets of the city is absolutely contrary to this. The population of San Pedro Sula is over 700,000 people. For a long time, it was known for its centuries-old history and a large number of attractions. But now this city is associated with crimes, impunity, and a huge number of deaths of innocent citizens. San Pedro Sula regularly appears in the rankings of the most dangerous cities in the world. Last year, there were more than 85 murders per 100,000 people. This figure is horrifying, but just a few years ago, there were 171 murders per 100,000 people in San Pedro Sula. Local laws allow residents to own 5 units of personal firearms. According to statistics, more than 80% of the victims died from gunshot wounds. The city is in criminal chaos. The most dangerous area is considered to be Rio Blanco. Several large groups operate in its territory. They are engaged in drug trafficking, thefts, carjackings, constant shootouts with criminals from other gangs, and sometimes just for fun, they attack random passersby. Of course, local residents live in fear, but the authorities are not in a hurry to fight this horror. It is known that most officials cover up criminal groups, receiving large sums of money for it. Unfortunately, with such an attitude of the authorities, San Pedro Sula will continue to be considered one of the most dangerous cities in the world for a long time. Certainly, Italy's crime rate is far from that of Latin American countries. However, Naples does have a district that is very dangerous to be in, called Scampia. Scampia is a suburb located in the north of Naples. In the 1980s, several high-rise blocks, parks, and recreation areas were built in the district for local residents. This suburb could have become a wonderful place, but its fate was interfered with by the Camorra, the largest criminal group in Naples. Thus, Scampia turned into the private domain of mafiosi and became the largest drug trafficking hub in Europe. For a long time, the suburb was the territory of the De Lauro clan, which controlled the drug trade on the streets and was responsible for almost all crimes committed in this area. In 2004, a real bloody war erupted between members of the clan and another opposing group. Since then, innocent local residents have started to be killed in Scampia. This district has ultimately turned into a center of lawlessness and poverty. The high-rise buildings have become akin to abandoned houses, and almost nothing remains of the parks. An incredibly high unemployment rate has led to the formation of a new group consisting solely of teenagers. These underage boys roam the streets of Scampia with pistols and regularly engage in the shootouts. Certainly, the Italian authorities have tried to stop this chaos. In 2016, a project was launched that included the demolition of high-rises that had turned into drug dens and the relocation of their residents to new homes. But unfortunately, this did not help in the fight against crime. Another dangerous district in the city of San Pedro Sula is Camalicon. This area is plagued by two feuding criminal gangs, Mara Salvatrucha, MS-13, and Barrio 18, MS-18. Conflicts between their members often result in bloodshed. These two gangs engage in drug trafficking, kidnapping, robbery, and theft, causing many innocent locals and visitors to suffer. According to official data, 52 journalists have been killed in the district over the last 20 years. Now imagine how many more people have died at the hands of these ruthless criminals, all of whom remain at large. Local residents no longer await help and have resigned themselves to their fate, which is to die from a stray bullet someday. Meanwhile, the authorities continue to ignore this situation, leading to an even greater increase in crime. In 2004, a horrific attack on a bus occurred in the district, resulting in 14 deaths. This is just one of the hundreds of gruesome crimes happening in San Pedro Sula. Some gang leaders do not hide their faces and even give interviews, talking about their murders and stating that they will continue to kill regardless. Natal is the capital of the Brazilian state of Rio Grande do Norte. The city's economy is primarily based on tourism. Indeed, the warm ocean, white sands, and tropical forests are attractive, but few tourists are aware that Natal is among the Brazilian cities with the highest levels of crime. The most dangerous area in the city is considered to be Felipe Camarão. There are many hotels offering comfortable accommodation in the area, but tourists should be aware that at any moment, even during the day, they can be caught in shootouts between local criminal groups. In the last 2 years, there have been 160 murders in this area. For example, in 2021, a local resident who was hurrying to work in the morning was killed for no apparent reason. Surprisingly, the police did not even attempt to find the criminals who took this person's life. This probably reflects the norm for this city. It is known that even the prisons in Natal are lawless. In 2017, a clash between two rival gangs occurred in the Alcacuz prison. As a result of this incident, 10 people died, some of whom were beheaded and burned. I think these stories perfectly illustrate what is happening in the city of Natal. The Middle East District of Baltimore became known thanks to the popular American TV series, The Wire. The show depicts the criminal activities taking place in the city, and almost all the plot stories are based on real events. In the mid-20th century, the Middle East District of Baltimore was predominantly inhabited by Czech Americans. These people were parishioners of the St. Wenceslaus Church and led a measured, peaceful life. Over time, the district began to be populated by teenagers from troubled families. In April 1968, a riot occurred in Baltimore, during which mass arson and clashes with the police took place. Since then, the crime rate has skyrocketed, and Baltimore has become known as one of the most dangerous cities in the USA. Over the past few years, the Maryland authorities have implemented various measures to combat violence, and to some extent, they have been successful. However, crime remains the main problem in Baltimore. Last year, the crime rate decreased by 3%, but still, every 10th city resident is at risk of falling victim to gang violence. The prevalence of gangs in this city is due to unemployment and the average income level, which is much lower than in other cities of the state. Some local residents find this unacceptable and do not trust the government, so they try to make a living not in lawful activities, but in criminal ones. The Renacimiento area in the Mexican city of Acapulco is considered the territory of criminal groups. Broken shop windows, graffitied building walls, and the near-total absence of people on the streets in the evening all indicate that this is a very dangerous place. Renacimiento has become a haven for drug traffickers and bandits. Shootouts are often heard on the streets of the area, and sometimes innocent civilians find themselves at the center of the crimes. Of course, the police try to fight the high level of crime, but this is almost unsuccessful. Occasionally, the police manage to neutralize the leaders of the groups, but against some of them, they are powerless. Currently, two major gangs operate in the city: 221 Inches and Los Locos. They consist of kidnappers, murderers, carjackers, and drug dealers. Acapulco was once a popular resort. It was known for its scenic beaches on the Pacific coast and was popular among Hollywood stars and millionaires. Now the situation has completely changed, and most tourists do not want to visit the city with such a high level of crime, even though the police guard the beaches. According to statistics, there are 55 murders per 100,000 people in Acapulco every year. For this reason, the city is in the ranking of the most dangerous cities in the world. Catia is another extremely dangerous district located in the western part of Caracas. The scene here is appalling. Some of its population drive around in armored cars, while others rummage through trash cans to find food. Catia, much like Petare, is controlled by criminal gangs. These people are immersed in cruelty and impunity, doing whatever they please. They spare no one. To get money, they are ready to kill again and again. The crime rate in Caracas seems monstrous. Annually, there are more than 55 murders per 100,000 population. For this reason, the capital of Venezuela is recognized as one of the most dangerous cities in the world. Children in this criminal district grow up amidst constant murders, immorality, and drug trafficking. Such a society destroys their psyche and breeds cruelty in them. As a result, teenagers in Catia form their own gangs and become criminals themselves. It seems like a vicious cycle that neither the police nor the country's authorities can break. The world-renowned reggae artist Bob Marley was born in Jamaica. He dedicated one of his songs titled Trench Town to what is now a criminal area located in the Jamaican city of Kingston. The lyrics of the song included the line, "Can anything good come out of Trench Town?" And these words very accurately describe what this area has turned into. In the 1960s, Trench Town was called the Hollywood of Jamaica. This area is the birthplace of musical genres such as reggae and rocksteady. Unfortunately, just 10 years later, government reforms led to Trench Town becoming known not for its talented musicians, but for dangerous criminals. In 2019, Kingston became one of the most dangerous cities in the world, with a large portion of the crimes occurring in Trench Town. In January 2021, a series of shootouts occurred in this area. After this incident, authorities imposed a curfew. However, this did not help improve the situation. During the clashes between rival groups, innocent people increasingly became victims. For example, in June 2021, 2 local residents were killed in a drive-by shooting. The number of murders in Trench Town increases every year. The area has become so dangerous that the local U.S. Embassy prohibits its employees from visiting this place. Cape Flats is a true den of evil and violence. There are no people leading a normal life in this area. It is inhabited only by those accustomed to drug use, thefts, and murders from childhood. These individuals are incredibly cruel and lack any semblance of humanity or compassion. Crime in Cape Flats escalated to a new level after former police officer Chris Prinsloo supplied local gangs with more than 2,500 units of firearms. New gangs began to emerge one after another. Currently, the largest among them are the Americans, Hard Livings, and JKF. All of them are involved in illegal drug trafficking, extortion, and attacks on human rights organizations. Criminals from these groups are so dangerous and ruthless that the police have to patrol Cape Flats in columns and sometimes deploy military equipment. The South African authorities regularly develop social programs aimed at eradicating crime in this area, but all of them have been unsuccessful. The crime rate does not decrease but continues to grow. In March 2021, 19 people were killed during a mass shootout, and 3 months later, another such incident claimed the lives of 12 people, including a 3-year-old child. Unfortunately, such stories are very common in this area. The capital of Venezuela, Caracas, is recognized as one of the most dangerous cities in the world. According to statistics, there are at least 120 murders per 100,000 inhabitants annually. The situation in Venezuela is getting worse every year. After the death of the previous president, Hugo Chavez, the crime rate began to grow exponentially. Over the last 8 years, the number of murders has increased by more than 50%, and the number of kidnappings has risen by 120%. These figures are frightening, but the scariest part is that due to a lack of funds, authorities have to reduce the number of police officers, who are already insufficient to curb crime. Residents of Caracas say that teenagers aspire to join criminal groups because they consider it fashionable. Instead of getting an education, they commit crimes, sometimes very brutal ones. Now, very young guys who have just turned 20 are becoming the leaders of these groups. The epicenter of crime in Caracas is considered to be the Petare district. These slums are located in the eastern part of the capital. Chaos reigns in Petare. Endless shootouts and stabbings, fights between members of rival groups, violence, thefts, and kidnappings. It is impossible to step outside in this area because you could be killed at any moment. Unfortunately, the police are completely powerless in such a situation. The only deterrent for criminals is poverty, which prevents them from acquiring enough ammunition to shoot all their enemies and anyone who happens to cross their path. And that's all from me. If you liked this video, don't forget to rate it. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. Your activity is the best reward for me. Thank you for your attention. See you soon. Bye.